We need to abolish for-profit prisons, and we need to make sure that the candidate we put forward for the Democratic nominee in 2028 is against for-profit prisons, because this all ties into what's going on with ICE. And a lot of people think that the people that are detained by ICE get deported to their home country, but that's not the case. They get put into these detention centers. They're essentially incarcerated, but it's worse than traditional incarceration because most people that end up in prison have access to medical care and they have access to phone calls every so often. They can get visits from their family members. The immigrants in these detention centers don't get any of this. And I also want to make sure that everyone knows that children are being held in these detention centers. In a traditional prison, a child will never be in there. And if you don't know the difference between a public prison and a private prison, don't worry, I didn't know until I took a class in college, and it totally changed the way that I view the United States, and every societal issue ties back to the private prison industry in our country. But basically, a public prison is owned by the government, either the state or the federal government, and they're not making a profit. Any money would just go like into expenses and stuff, and then it would go back to the government if they were able to make a profit. A private prison is essentially a for-profit prison. So someone is making money off of incarcerating human beings. It is blank labor. I can't say the word because my video will be taken down, but you understand. And if you look up a list of all the companies that use private prisons to create their stuff, like it's not just license plates, it's also most of the furniture that we get, some of the clothes that we get, like the list it's actually shocking. So basically, a billionaire owns the private prison and they make a profit off of all the people that are working at the prison while they're incarcerated, and they're making like 3 cents an hour, 10 cents an hour, but the goods they're creating get sold at normal market value. So the person that's owning the prison basically owns the humans and gets to keep all the profit. And that sounds bad enough. And then you add in the government contracts. So the United States government pays these private prisons. So the United States government pays billionaires to incarcerate people, essentially. And these contracts, let's say it's a contract for 10,000 incarcerated people. If only 8,000 people are actually in that prison, the United States government signed a contract with the private prison, so they still have to pay for 10,000 people, even if 8,000 people is all that is in there. So that means the people that believe in the private prison industry and believe in these government contracts want those prisons to be as full as possible. So that's why we have immigrants being plucked out of their lives and put in these detention centers, because they are making money for the billionaires that own the private prison industries. And this also ties into the fact, like, both sides of the aisle get funding from private prisons, like private prison lobbies, but it's usually more Republicans. But if you look at the politicians that are constantly talking about crime and how scary it is and how we need to lock up more people, they're probably getting money from the private prison industry, or the private prison lobby, I should say. They want more people to be incarcerated so that the private prison industry can make even more money and funnel that money into politicians that are going to keep pushing hardcore laws that incarcerate people over, non-violent rug offenses. I don't think I can say that word. So yeah, I basically feel like Charlie Day connecting all the dots, but it really does come back to the private prison industry every single time. It's a huge part of why our education system is struggling so much, and it's a huge part of, just like I said, every societal issue comes back to private prisons.